What's up, guys? My name is Genesee, and I'm a support main that just hit GM with a 60.2% win rate. I picked up some tips and tricks during my climb, and I wanted to share them with you. Please keep in mind that this video will not have regurgitated advice that you may have heard from other creators, and will only contain the most important value that you will need to climb. I have 5 things to cover today, and I left the most important one for last. Please drop a like on the video, and let's get started. Number 1. If you main more than 3 characters, you're actively throwing the game. The game is way too early in its life cycle for you to have mastered multiple heroes at this point. Seriously, I hit GM playing 2 characters, mostly just one, Rocket Raccoon, and an off-pick Mantis. That's it. That's all I needed. If you look at the leaderboard, there's Celestial and top 500 players right now that still have multiple heroes on 0 minutes played. If that tells you anything, that should show that having a champ pool or a hero pool that is large isn't actually going to do anything for your climb. The only time having a large hero pool actually matters is for pro play. That's it. If your goal is to climb in solo queue, your hero pool does not matter. If you have a character that you enjoy, fits in most team comps, and isn't banned every game, that's your sign to start one-tricking. Number 2, how to pick a character to main. Picking the right hero doesn't always depend on what your team is playing, but also it depends on what the enemy team is playing. For example, Penny, Namor, and Mantis are great into dive comps. Heroes that one-shot or set up one-shots are great into triple support. Think Groot, Moon Knight, and Namor. Against enemy flyers, you'll need consistent point-and-click damage. Hela, Black Widow, and Adam Warlock are great for this. Neglecting these truths about the game will result in avoidable losses during your climb. Now, once you hit diamond lobbies, certain characters will be banned every game, so it's important to have a backup if you main these characters: Storm, Bruce Banner, and Luna Snow. Other characters like Wolverine, Hela, and Rocket Raccoon are also banned often, but you won't see them banned every game. Now, this is just my personal anecdote, but after seeing how the community treated Wolverine, and then Team Captain came out and showed everyone how strong Wolverine was, and then just recently, Metaphor, who was a previous League of Legends and Warzone streamer now playing Marvel Rivals, just smurfed his way into top 500 on Iron Fist, I no longer believe that any character in this game is truly bad. At the end of the day, it's not on the hero to win the game, it's you. Number 3, team comps. Unlike Overwatch, Marvel Rivals and the team comps within this game are quite fluid, and I don't think we've settled on a meta yet. However, these are the most common comps you will see. 2-2-2, typically a Strange and a Magneto on the front line with ranged DPS aiming to win the shield war during skirmishes, and 1 to 2 defensive support ults for big fights on checkpoints. This sort of comp will be countered by dive comps who will just ignore your front line and go straight for your supports. Next, we have 2-1-3. 2-1-3, typically you'll see a third support instead of a second DPS, and the purpose of that third support is to beef up the backline, and the 3 supports will actually be able to keep themselves up and protect themselves versus an enemy dive. So this interacts with the 2-2-2 setup, in which you may start the match as a 2-2-2 and lose to a dive comp. One of your DPSs will actually swap to a support, and your 2-2-2 will become a 2-1-3, and now you've reached the advantage, and now you can win the match. Next comp, we have a 1-2-3. Now, in my experience, this is typically a troll comp you'll get when you only have one tank main in your lobby. The biggest weakness to this comp is that no amount of healers can save your DPS if they get one shot. Now, this comp can work. I believe it can work. Running a single tank with a Rocket Raccoon, once your frontline dies with the solo tank, if he can get a revive off and return to the fight without any other teammates dying, I do think it's possible for this comp to work. But I do think it's kind of unlikely. Now, lastly, we have 114. Now, this is something you'll likely only see at the very top of the ladder, where desperation is at its peak and the cheese comps come out in full force. In my opinion, this comp is almost guaranteed to win on domination maps if you touch point first, as even if they contest, your percentage points will still continue to increase and eventually will lock out at 99%. Now, I did not include any triple DPS comps, as I think they're troll and will eventually be pushed out of meta as people start to find their true ranks. I did look through some of my match history, and I really was not able to find any triple DPS comps where we actually won the game. Now, there were one or two, but I do think these are the exception and not the rule, where matchmaking may be putting a little bit of an edge on one specific team over another. The problem with triple DPS is that ideally, to keep your 3 DPS alive, you're going to want a rocket and probably a cloak and dagger to keep up the heals. However, rocket doesn't supply any defensive ulti, and cloak and dagger will just be one tapped by an enemy mag ult. If you run a different support lineup, such as Mantis and Luna, the heal uptime simply won't be high enough to keep your 3 DPS alive. Number 4, playing in stacks could be hurting you. When I was climbing through Platinum as support, I started playing with the Bucky Star-Lord duo, and we went on an 80% plus win rate up to D3. After I had gotten off for the night, I checked their rank the next day to see how far they had gotten, and actually saw that one of them had demoted to Plat 1 and the other demoted to Plat 2. After a few more days, when I had reached GM3, they were still in Platinum and the win rate had reached negative. So what's the conclusion? You should only be duoing with someone that mains a different role than you. When I queued with 2 DPS as a support main, I removed one potential DPS main from being on their team, and that was usually enough to make things work. However, when they just queued as 2 DPS mains on their own, you're just asking for a scuffed team comp. When it comes to 6 stacks, you can create a new problem, as you may queue as 2 tanks, 2 DPS, and 2 support mains, but the comp may be calling for something different once you load into the game, and your teammates will just refuse to swap on their own. Now, your experience may be different, your mileage may vary. In my experience, when I'm in a 6 stack, I usually just chill. I don't really tell people what to do. I'm going to call things out like usual, but if I'm the best player on the team, I'm not really trying to prevent other people from having fun. So I'm really hoping on people to, recognize that their picks aren't working out and pick on their own or swap on their own. Because telling your Wolverine DPS to swap when they have a solo tank could go of one of 2 ways. Either he swaps and you guys win the game, or he refuses, the vibes go completely downhill, and after your loss, you'll be looking for a new stack. Now, one benefit has to be mentioned, and that's if you're easily baited by toxicity and allow that to affect your games, then find 5 weed smokers that just don't give a fuck, and you can get some really chill games and hopefully hit a flow state with some really good mental. And good mental truly wins games, so I do think that could work. Lastly, at number 5, I think this is the most important thing to learn and recognize in your competitive matches, and that's understanding win conditions. Even though each team has 6 people on it, usually there is going to be a hierarchy in regards to who is most important on your team and at what time. For example, if the enemy Hela has ulti, your Doctor Strange's value increases as he can fly up and block with his shield. Here's another example. If the enemy Wolverine is eating your front line apart, your Invisible Woman's value increases as she has multiple ways to peel the Wolverine or pull him out of his position. It's important to keep your team's win conditions alive, as your team will lose without them. Now, instead of trying to counter what the enemy will do, how can we instead amplify or add to what our own team is trying to do? Now, like I said, I saved this tip for last, as this is really what helped me push through the Diamond 3 barrier and soar into Grandmaster. If you have a character or characters on your team that can 1v9, that can win the game on their own, then it is your job to help them. Now, me as a support main, anytime I get a Hulk Iron Man combo on my team, I'm going triple support comp with me on Mantis, and I'm following the Iron Man around. That's it. If my team locks in Venom, Spider-Man, I'm going Rocket to keep them topped up from Africa and give them a revive when one of them dies. Understand your win condition and feed into that win condition until you win the game. Something to keep in mind is that if you're in Silver 3 and you're playing with other Silver 3s, then leave your ego at the door. Yeah, maybe you deserve a higher rank, but playing selfishly isn't going to get you there, I promise you. Put some faith in your teammates that are just as good as you, mind you, and I promise your win rate will go up. It is a team game after all. And that concludes everything I wanted to talk about today. I know Marvel Rivals is popular to play right now, and there is no shortage of creators making their own content, so my goal is to provide value that is unique and stems from my own personal experience instead of regurgitating tips and tricks that you could find elsewhere. Anyways, my name's Jenny, or Genesee in game, and I hope you learned something. And if you did, share this video with a friend who needs it. Alright, if you can hear me, that's actually the conclusion of the tips and tricks. Right now, I'm actually watching the live gameplay with you right now, with me on Mantis. This is D1, like D180 or D175. This is 2 games away from Grandmaster. I ended up winning this game and the game after and hit my GM. But I'm just going to live review, basically just going over my thought process of what you're seeing in front of us right now. So basically the same thing I've been doing the entire game is just making sure I keep 2 leaves on my Iron Man. That's 1 heal and 1 inspire. And then a 3rd leaf on the Hulk, just to heal. And then if I do have a 4th, I can inspire him as well. But ideally, I just want to use 3 leaves at a time, keep 1 in reserve just in case I need it for my healers or DPS. And that's just the motto there. Whenever I see my front line dying, I'm just going to back up. Now, I should have gotten cover here, but as you can see, I'm actually really close to my ultimate. So I'm really trying to stay out here in the open, deal as much damage as I can, and also take as much damage as I can for me to heal it up, just so I can be able to get my ultimate as soon as possible. Now that I have my ultimate ready, I'm being really aggressive. Keep in mind also, I'm clicking tab. As soon as I get my ulti charge, I'm hitting tab to see if my ally supports have their ultimate as well. It's very, very important that you do not stack the ultimates. But unfortunately, I think we did actually end up stacking ultimates this fight, which is really, really bad. But, you know, what can you do? It's solo queue. Anyway, so we're just pushing this cart here. Like I said, keeping the main win condition in mind of keeping my Iron Man alive. That's number 1. Number 2 is keeping my Hulk alive, and number 3 is keeping myself alive. That's it. I don't worry about my Hela. I'm not worried about my supports really. They're gonna help each other out, and they're gonna help the Hela out, and I'm just focused on my main job here. But anyways, it was kind of a stomp, I won't lie. You know, people say, oh, I'm in silver, I'm in bronze, I'm in gold, the teammates are bad. Trust me, Diamond, Grandmaster, your teammates are still going to be bad. In this case, in this game, the enemy team was bad. I don't know what was going on with them, but hey, you know, I'll take the free rating. But anyways, appreciate you guys watching the video. I'm really signing out this time, and I appreciate y'all for watching. Peace.